If anxiety is a call to action that's there to help us to solve a problem, how to be safe, then depression is the opposite. Depression is a form of physiological de-arousal. This is about giving up. Very broadly speaking, depressed people are no longer interested in finding a solution. They've decided that there's nothing to be done, and so they give up. Of course, there are degrees of giving up, and it's not really as cut and dry as all that. But nonetheless, depression does have an element of giving up about it. That's not to suggest that it's a voluntary submission to depression, but it is fair to say that depressed people are generally less determined to solve out their problems than anxious people. This may seem strange, but it actually links very well to the stress and vulnerability model we mentioned in an earlier video. As people's stress levels increase, they become anxious and try to solve their problems. However, if they're unable to solve their problems, the stress increases and they give up trying to sort things out. Their anxiety, a call to action, subsides. At this point, they move up the scale of mental disorder into depression. Biological, physical signs of depression include sleep disturbance, appetite disturbance, apathy and lethargy, tearfulness, slowing down of physical movement, and passivity, which is, of course, the opposite of assertiveness. The service user who never seems to cause any problems or demand anything from the staff might not be content. They're just as likely to be depressed. Be aware of the risk of suicide. According to the Beck suicide scale, the best indicators of impending suicide, apart from past behaviour, are helplessness and hopelessness. Both of these things are features of depression. Clinical depression is different from sadness. We all have bad days, and the occasional low mood is just part and parcel of normal mood variation. Clinical depression includes biological symptoms just mentioned and thoughts to result from underproduction of various chemicals such as serotonin. However, as we noted in a previous episode on physiology, there is a chicken and the egg situation here. Low serotonin levels can cause depression, but inactivity also reduces serotonin levels still further. It's not always terribly important to work out whether the depression came first or the inactivity was the cause. As is often the case, dealing with current problems may well be far more important than trying to understand the history of the disorder. Sometimes, here and now is all we need to work on, at least in the beginning. For example, ensure that people's current behaviour doesn't undermine recovery. Many people turn to alcohol when they're down, but that simply makes things worse. Alcohol also prevents medication from working properly. As the depression begins to lift, historical information can be extremely useful, but only if we know how to use it and what to do with it. That's where diagnosis falls down. It's only really interested in current symptoms. Formulation is more comprehensive and takes account of the factors that led people into depression, as well as the aspects of their thoughts and behaviours that kept them there. If diagnosis helps us to know what the problem is, formulation helps us to ensure that they overcome it and then at least have a fighting chance of dealing with it in the future. But all that fancy stuff aside, the basic trick with depression is positive action. Get people active again. Give them a reason to continue to take an interest. This is more than just distraction. It involves purpose. Clearly, purpose can be difficult to achieve in people, but it's worth working at. Purpose and security also make it much less likely that people will present with challenging behaviours too. They have no reason to, so long as their needs are being met. There is, of course, much more to depression than we've covered in this little introduction. In particular, we need to consider the specific thoughts and behaviours that both create and maintain depression. We'll get to those in a later video. For now, it's enough to describe in broad terms what depression is. How it's assessed and what we do about it will come later.